Welcome to RPG Archive. Another great show in front of us. As almost always, we have the official co-host, unofficial co-host, I think I call you, Teddy from Majority. Teddy, how are you?
Good. I evolved. I'm now official.
You might as well be, honestly. I think you're in like 90% of the videos that are on this, but
What can I say? I like RPGs.
Teddy's going to be an amazing help today because I'm still getting over my sickness, and I will occasionally cough. So he might be doing more of the background talking than usual. So if you like Teddy, which you should, you'll really love this episode. This episode, of course, being Pokemon Legends Arceus. Am I saying Arceus correct? It's Arceus, right?
Although in the DS era, I would have been just as remiss to mispronounce it as Arceus.
Mm-hmm. Before we do that, make sure you go subscribe over at Majority, who I'm sure will be talking about this game because he's achieved something great. And I would love to see what he has to say about that. But also, make sure you check us out on the Button Mappers, where ironically, it's Pokemon month while we record this.
That's true.
So that's awesome.
So if you like Pokemon, well, I mean, shit. We got it on several channels.
Yeah.
Pokerust is spreading.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
And it's so weird because this is actually the first Pokemon game we're doing on this channel. How odd is that? I think we would have done one. But no, this is it. And everyone probably thinks we would start at Red or something, or Gen 1. Nope. It's a spin-off of Gen 4.
Who says you have to play in order? Who says you have to play a mainline game? Button mappers, because we map out chronologically, and we will eventually get to the worst ones.
Well, are you ready?
Oh yeah, and I'll take the lead, and if I mess it up, you can just cough your way in.
Okay.
Be like a Pokemon. Coughing.
Absolutely. Go ahead. Take it away, man.
Well, here on RPG Archive, we like to break down the video game in question into segments: development, the release, the game, and the legacy. Pokemon Legends Arceus was revealed February 26th of 2021. That's 2 years ago, just about. This was during the 25th anniversary Pokemon live stream. Was announced alongside titles like Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Now, I haven't gone back and watched that live stream, so I think there was like a cafe mix or something and some other nonsense there. What were your thoughts when you first heard about Pokemon Arceus, if you remember?
So, what I specifically remember about this, and I feel like I wanted to ask you because I feel like the gaming universe was all in agreement on how we felt about this, is that we're like, it's Pokemon meets Breath of the Wild. Like, I think that was the whole point of it, was that we were like, we finally get a truly open world Pokemon game. And then we kind of saw it in action. We're like, okay, yeah, there's like a little bit more action in this one than your standard Pokemon game. Also, I have the great benefit of also having literally just finished Brilliant Diamond, I think is the one I just finished. So I actually played that as well. Less positive things to say about that one. But yeah, it was the whole thrill was it was going to be an open world Pokemon game, and I think we were all excited, and I think we've all most Pokemon fans have been waiting for something like this for a long time. What about you?
I think it just went over my head.
Mm.
Because I heard it and I watched the live stream, and it was 25 years of Pokemon. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, I did not I did not care about those announcements. I guess like Arceus like was like, oh wow, it's something novel, but I'm not a Breath of the Wild fan as it is. So I think the concept of the big open world Pokemon, like I don't know. I just don't know if that's what I was clamoring for. I really like Stadium and some of the more arcadey ones. So I think if I heard that, I would have been like, like I gotta get that. But I heard Arceus and I was like, oh, cool.
Mm, yeah. You're gonna make a lot of friends not liking Breath of the Wild. Coming after you. Well, I thought
Have
it.
great conversation.
I thought it was interesting too because it was like Diamond and Pearl, and then it was like they remade those, and then this is like an offshoot of that. What were your thoughts on Diamond and Pearl in general?
So Pokemon Diamond and Pearl was Generation 4. It came out early in the DS lifespan, and I don't know, it's weird because it's one of those generations of Pokemon games that I probably put the most time into, and I don't know that my affection for it was as warranted as like for other Pokemon games or even just games in general. Just because I have the perspective that even though I put a lot of time into something doesn't mean it's great,
Hmm.
good. It just means I'm addicted to it. So I was addicted to things like shiny hunting in Gen 4, which is not what I really love this series for. But I kind of liked some of the mystique and the charm about it. And the legendaries are pretty cool. There's these badass metal water dragons in Platinum. There's like a ghost dragon. And Arceus, who is the star of Pokemon Legends Arceus, was kind of like a myth in a sense. There's a story about, Arceus not really being introduced in Gen 4, but still being kind of like the badass legendary. So I had it's kind of a mystique or intrigue about it that I liked.
Mm. I gotta say, I feel like this is where I fell off the Pokemon wagon because I liked one a lot. Obviously, it's one of my favorite games ever. Generation 2, I liked. I don't know if it pulled me in as much, but I'm a little older than you. It's not often I get to say something like that, but I'm a little older than you. So I feel like I was slowly, by this time, especially by the third gen, I was like a little too old maybe, and it just wasn't for me. Because I remember getting pretty far in the third gen, maybe even like 6 badges or 7 badges or so. I can't even remember if I got like 3 badges in Pearl. I have Pearl, and yeah, I don't remember if I got 3 badges. I just did not enjoy. I just very quickly was like, I don't really like this. Like I'm playing it because I always played Pokemon's, but this just wasn't like fun for me anymore. So I put this one down. Ironically, I would go play Black when that came out and finished it, but I feel like the circumstances were a little weird for that one. But after that, no, I've been completely off Pokemon. I mean, I played Sword and Shield and also the newest one after that. I forgot what it already, like Scarlet, I think, but not to the point where I'm like loving it. It's mostly like speeding through it as fast as I can and just like whatever. I played it. Um, so yeah, Diamond and Pearl I feel like is where I fell off Pokemon. So it's been an interesting experience playing the two games for sure. It's just like whoa, these are the Pokemon.
Yeah. Yeah, there's something missing. Like I don't know. Like I got a freaking Dratini behind me. Like I love the damn first gen Pokemon. That like to me, it's like if you think of what are the classic, dragon Pokemon. I'm going like Gyarados. I'm going like Dragonite, or like I'm going like Snorlax. He's a big buff dude. Zapdos, badass, legendary. Then you look at Gen 4 and you walk out and it's a beaver.
Yeah.
Doof.
Bidoof. That may have
It
been
kind of
what
just
killed it. Yeah.
maybe that's why you stopped at badge 3 because you saw that you go to the grass and half the time it's Starlies and Bidoofs. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's funny that you say that. I've always said that too. Is that everyone like apparently has their generation of Pokemon that was like their favorite. And I'm like, but honestly, if you see like a poster of Pokemon, it's not going to have like a random one from Gen 4. It's going to have Pikachu. It will probably have Charmander, Squirtle, or Bulbasaur in one order of that. It'll have Mewtwo. It'll have, yeah, Gyarados is considered freaking badass. And then some other Pokemon that are generally from Gen 1. And then like Gen 2 has like a couple, like Celebi. I don't know which gen that was from, but that pops up places. But like, and it tapers down so bad that I couldn't even fucking name you a Pokemon from the newest one. And I just played it. So couldn't name one. So I always thought that was weird about this series. Anyway. I was doing some reading about the Game Freak staffing model I found interesting. I'm not going to read this whole thing. But it was an interview with, and I have him pulled up here, Shigeru Omori. As always, Teddy will correct me when I mispronounce these names. And who is the planning director? Or director, sorry. He's a director. And the planning director is Kazumasa Iwao. Iwao?
That's right.
Oh, Iwao.
You define.
Okay. And then this was specifically Omori speaking. And he said that Iwao gave higher positions to the younger staff members who had the ability and motivation to take on the responsibility. When asked how the younger staff performed, he felt that the lack of knowledge and experience sometimes showed through the project. Young staff got stuck on numerous occasions and received lots of advice from the more experienced staff members. They struggled, but eventually made it through with the help of more experienced staff. It has always been a tradition of Game Freak to give opportunities to the youth. Even for Omori, he was chosen as the planning leader for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl when he was 25, while all other staff were more experienced members. The organization often changes with every game title, which is another thing that makes Game Freak so unique. I think you see that and you're like, wow, okay, so Game Freak likes to like reshuffle the deck every time they make a Pokemon game, and with the only change, like constant being, they put like a young person in charge. I feel like there's good examples of this, and then there's really bad examples of this throughout Pokemon. What's your take on this?
I just have some clarifying questions. Was this an interview from like right after the time of Diamond Pearl?
It was about it was in January. It was January 6th, 2022. I think it was before the game came out.
Oh, so the remakes even.
Yeah. This was like, I guess, when they were getting ready to announce, or they've announced all this stuff.
But even the quote about even for Omori, he was chosen as planning leader for Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. That's for the originals.
Yeah, the originals.
So
he's an old man now.
Okay.
In Game Freak years, he's an old man.
He's a real freak.
He's an old freak.
Yeah. It's not positive a lot of the times. Although I would make the case that like battling online kind of changed the game during like X and Y. I think Black and White, they were starting to dabble into that. Gen 4 was kind of, a weird time for that. I don't know if it was like ever fully, handled the same way, but I know Black and White has more of those like internet features, which have become outdated now because the DS connectivity is like non-existent. But I think it like aligns with the Nintendo philosophy of innovate always in every iteration, and like try and do your best. I could think of awful examples like digging for fossils in Gen 4. And I could think of good examples in the modern day too. So
when I hear that, I cringe because I hear, like I think Arceus had good intentions, and that one is probably positive. But for every Arceus, you also have a Scarlet that comes out and is literally broken. Like, The game had some certain promises, and I guess it kept those promises at the expense of literally everything else in the game. And it's like, well, you had somebody that was probably 25 that was put in charge of an open world Pokemon game, and it came out and it's a complete disaster. Now, obviously, it sold well, but literally every Pokemon game is going to sell well, so I don't necessarily think that's a quality thing. So I don't know. I hear that stuff, and I almost feel like they're bragging about it. Maybe not quite that, but I just cringe when I read that because it's, it's like, why is this? They're reviewing Scarlet, like it's weird, like everything's broken in it, and they're like, well, we put a new guy on the job to be in charge of it. That's why, they say, and they're just like have this chipper attitude about it. Like, thanks.
It's all cringe, man. It's cringe getting a gaming magazine and then it's like, it's broken, but I give it a 9.
Because it's Pokemon, and Nintendo kind of pays us everything. So yeah. Well, it is a new game, which means we don't have a lot of details into the development yet. So, are you ready to move right on to the release?
Sure.
All right.
Release these Pokemon into the wild. Pokemon Arceus style. This game was developed by Game Freak, published by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. Directors Kazumasa Iwao, I guess that's the pronunciation. Producers Shigeru Omori, Akira Kinashi, Yokazu Nonaka, Takanori Sowa, Kenji Endo, designer Yuichi Murase, programmer Mizuki Saita, artist Suguru Nakatsui, writer Toshinobu Matsumiya, composers Go Ichinose, Tomi Sato, Romitsu Maiba. Series, Pokemon platform, Switch, release January 28th, 2022. Genre, ARPG. It's an RPG. Let's go. Action role playing game. Interesting. And a single player game. Any thoughts just on the producer, director, developer list?
Well, we kind of touched on it already. Is that I guess Kazumasa Iwao, whatever, is probably a young person. I don't know that for a fact, but I'm just gonna guess based on what they said above. Interesting. They call it an action role playing game. I guess in certain instances it is. In most instances, it's not. But I'll give it to them. There's an element of action in the whole game, I suppose, too. So
You should really list both genres. I understand it, like from boss battle perspective and whatnot, but yeah. I have a couple. So Satoshi Tajiri is missing from this list. I just wonder what he thinks about like this game overall. I think it's his baby, this series. I actually don't know Tajiri's influence over games outside of like Gen 1, I think, because like I think we haven't done a Pokemon archive here, but I think his inevitable or his original concept of the series was like catching bugs and studying them and stuff. And honestly, I think this takes kind of a good influence from that. So this cast of people, I think they understand the spirit of Pokemon.
interesting. It would be very easy for us. Well, I always felt like a Pokemon Gen 1, obviously, and then going from there would be something we would do. And obviously, there's not any preparation because we've beaten the game and we've probably all collectively played the game like 50 times. So I don't think we really need to play it again. My worry about actually doing Pokemon is that I have no idea what I could add to that conversation. There's literally like 3-hour videos, like 500 of them describing Pokemon. I'm like, it's a little overwhelming. But I don't know. If you
None
want
of us doing it.
that's true. If you want us to do Pokemon, though, make sure you leave it in the comments below. Maybe we'll be more encouraged to do it. It's just,
Yeah.
I feel with that one that like we'd bring up a topic and then they'd be like, this is the backstory of that, and we'd get just reamed all the
They
time.
do that anyway.
That's true. That's true. Uh, looks like as of
Well,
as of November 8th, 2022, this game has sold about 14 million copies worldwide.
worldwide.
Worldwide. What's
The
the Jap?
breakdown is not available for Japan, US, though I believe it is in the millions in US, but VG Charts didn't have that. Do you know that in 3 days, the physical copies alone sold 1.43 million in Japan?
This may take the award for the highest selling game we've done on this show.
I mean, it's the closest that we've even done. Like, well, Dragon Quest 1, like, is a 6. I mean, what's it? I don't even know what it was. Japan. Oh no, one of these Dragon Quest games was like, what was the height of the ones that we've covered? Because I think it was Dragon Quest 9.
Dragon Quest 9 was the highest selling. It would have had to have
What,
been
like 2
like,
million?
oh no, it has to be way more than that. Because Dragon Quest 6 sold like 3 or 4. It had to have been like 5. Something like that. I don't remember. Go back to the archive and check it out if you're a listener and you're curious.
At least half of this. And that's really impressive because this is a spin-off. This is not even a mainline game.
Yeah.
13 million. This is number 13 on the Switch. Your favorite YouTuber's favorite console. This is the 13th highest selling game on it.
Slight correction of what I said, not what you said. Elden Ring has sold, as of November 2022, 17.5 million.
Oh, goddamn.
So goddamn. But this is definitely top 3, if not top 2, because we generally, ironically, cover things that don't sell well in America. I don't know why we do that. Maybe we have Japanese tastes. Could you please tackle these so I don't cough through them?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. And just jump in wherever. So we're gonna get into the game that is Pokemon Legends Arceus. There's a lot to talk about. We're gonna start with the general plot synopsis. The game, and this comes from the Wikipedia page, follows the protagonist sent back through time as they travel the Hisui region based on the island of Hokkaido during early Japanese colonization. Centered around exploration of the region's several open areas populated with Pokemon, the game's objective is to complete a roster of the region's Pokemon known as the Pokédex. In addition to this segment, there are several other plot lines, such as the idea that this civilization is still learning to live with Pokemon. They're living in fear of them. And you start to show them that you can like battle alongside them. Although other people are kind of doing it too. There's rivaling clans. They're supposed to represent native people, the Diamond Clan and the Pearl Clan. And I think if you look it up on the wiki page, it's something about like the Inui tribe or something. I don't know. But I think you can really get this kind of like feudal Japan feel. Even the first time you get dropped out of the sky and land in this place, you know, it's like it's like Japanese architecture. The sounds are very interesting. I don't know if you played this game with the volume on, but you know, it has like these kind of like old school Japanese instruments playing. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the things that turned me off about this game was that Japanese influence. I think I've made it pretty clear before that I do not enjoy Japanese culture very much. Like I don't know why. I don't know why I'm like averse to it. Like I really want to play like everyone says that game is so good. I can't think of what it is, but it's the samurai game on PS4 and PS5. That's apparently just like mind-blowingly good. It was like
Oh, Sekiro.
no, not Sekiro, although that's probably similar in that aspect. It's a different one, but there's this really good one, and I want to play. I'm always like 90% in. Even I saw it on sale for like $10. And I'm just like, I really don't care about samurai, like at all. And I don't care about the architecture. I don't care about the music. I don't like like woodwind instruments. I guess if that's what you call it or whatever.
Yeah, the chimes.
I'm just not into it. And I feel so sad because I love like the games that they make. Like I love the stuff that like comes out of Japan, but I don't like the stuff that's in it. And I don't know why that is or what's going on there, but when I come to a town like this and it just looks like feudal Japan, that's great that I think a lot of people do like it. And I think that's awesome. I'm just not one of those people.
Mm. We can really probe into your mind and understand what Spencer's turnoff with the romanticization of Japan really means.
Please do. I feel like there's a lot of like cool stuff that I would have more appreciation for. Like we played Shenmue. I'm sure half of that is like just like appreciating Japanese culture. Like traveling around like
No,
appreciate. No? No.
half of that's enjoying awful dub and
Well, yeah.
cheesy like cop action.
But like okay, but what about like what's that? The beat 'em up that's kind of like that's based on Shenmue, I guess, or whatever. Like
Oh, the Yakuza
the Yakuza
games?
games. Like
Yes, I feel like the people who enjoy that aren't like gung ho Japanese culture. They like the cheesy action and the funny dialogue. Anybody's going in that trying to learn Japanese.
maybe, but it's just stuff like that like turns me off to those games. And it's sad because I'm
Mm.
sure they're great. Like I'm sure I'm missing a great game, but it's just the setting just does not jive with me.
I think I understand because you don't find it like relatable. Is that
Maybe
fair?
like maybe I was never shown like martial arts movies as a kid. I think I saw like one. So maybe that has stuff to do with it. Like it just wasn't part of my culture growing up and it never clicks now. Maybe that's it. I don't know.
Like nature.
Uh, maybe.
Oh,
Not
yeah. Okay. See, I
it's
mean,
not yeah.
I'm a hiker. I like going on the mountain, just like climbing and just letting go of the day. I like, although I'm a workhorse, I'm very productive. I love my just relaxation time.
Hmm.
Hence gaming, hence like hiking, going for a jog, going for a walk, whatever stuff like that. Just sitting on a bench somewhere and just like breathing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of meditative in that sense. I don't meditate, but I generally like this outdoorsy feel, and I think the romanticization of Japan in this game specifically is like of the like just the calming effects of climbing a mountain or like floating or around
Yeah.
a landscape, going through meadows, and also this harkens to like the adventurer's spirit, like looking at a map and what parts have I gone to, have I not gone to?
Mm-hmm.
And so to me, it's less about being relatable, but more as like an escape. But I
Okay.
do relate to it on that front because I genuinely like that feeling. I would because I got tens of hours in this game. A lot of it even was just me mindlessly floating around. I purposefully did not look up how to get some of these Pokemon until I had to because I just enjoyed cruising and taking in the landscapes, even at the shitty frame rate that it had.
Did you play it docked?
Oh, docked. Yes, yes, I played it almost entirely on the TV.
Okay. I don't think I ran into many frame rate issues. Although I did stream it the first like couple hours, and I'm curious if I ran into frame rate issues there. I don't really remember. But that's funny that you say that because in Scarlet I didn't have any frame rate issues either until I docked it. And as soon as I docked it and played it, it was unplayable. It was like it was terrible, just like everyone was saying. So they must change it depending on if it's docked or not. Um,
Um,
hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, maybe we should have done some research into that, but oh well. Setting. Set the scene. Game is set in a bygone era of the Sinnoh region's history when it was known as the Hisui region, long before the events of Pokemon Diamond and Pearl and their remakes take place. Hisui is based on the real-life island of Hokkaido during the Muromachi period when it was still known as Ezo, with new settlers from other regions interacting with natives in a parallel with the interaction between Hokkaido's Ainu people, that's the pronunciation, and Japanese settlers. Ainu groups are represented in the game by the Diamond and Pearl clans, while new mainland settlers are represented by the Galaxy Expedition team. What are your thoughts on? I know we talked about like the Japanese influence, but I guess more so like the places and people in Pokemon Arceus.
I mean, man, it's never really that I've played a Pokemon game where it's like in the so far in the past. It was interesting to see people like not think of Pokemon as like just a means to battle and occasionally like show off and as like a pet. Like they literally didn't understand them. And I thought that was really unique. And their relationship with them was just so different. Like they were in their town and they were very closed off to it. They're almost like defending themselves against it, and they you know the threats from outside the outside world were like there's a Pokemon going crazy, get rid of it, and it's like there was a constantly a question of like, do we want to get rid of it or do we want to like help it or do you want to like just like solve whatever problem it has and then maybe it can be symbiotic with us. There's all those kinds of questions that they didn't know, and I thought it was really cool. Really unique way to look at Pokemon.
Yeah, when I played mainline Pokemon games, the Pokédex is like an afterthought.
Well, it doesn't
It's
make any
just like,
sense.
oh,
But
yeah, I mean, it's just fine to read like the entries, like, okay, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, caught Magikarp.
mhm.
And then it's like, this one is a swift swimmer. Just a
Well,
novelty in mainline games.
but it doesn't make any sense in mainline games, right? Because in like Pokemon this game it actually like makes sense. But in Pokemon like Red, if you look at Pokemon Red Gen 1, he says I need to document all the Pokemon in the world. Here, take this Pokédex. And then somehow, even though they haven't documented the Pokemon, there's details about the Pokemon as soon as you find one.
Hmm.
So it actually doesn't really make any sense. But in this game, it does because you're literally like catch like 50 of these Pokemon or light it on fire 50 times and see what happens. Like it actually makes sense here.
Yeah, I think that everything is well thought out in Arceus. Because it's all in this central plot of like you're venturing into the unknown and you're trying to make it known. You're trying to learn and live with the Pokemon around you and make the first ever Pokédex in ancient Sinnoh. And like you said, some of these Pokemon, this is literally like the visualization of them as like these gods. It's almost SMT-esque in a sense. Like I don't know, and not to the same like extent, especially not in difficulty, but in the kind of lore and the mythology of them. You see Pokemon in different environments, and I think like there's one point where I'm seeing a Gyarados flying around the clouds, and I'm
Mm.
like, what the? Never like even thought to like experience something like that. Maybe like wanting more actually, because like I know they don't have all the Pokemon in this game. Like could have seen like a Dragonite or something, or like I don't know. But
Oh
I,
yeah,
I was really impressed with a lot of things in this game.
I agree.
Everything, but a lot.
Uh, obviously this is a spin-off. So they have free reign to change things up. Now, when they first like showed it off, I think people were just thinking it would be the same Pokemon style but more open worldy. But there's actually quite a few gameplay changes in this game. Um, we can go over a group of them and then we'll do a top 5 list
Ooh.
of what we
Let's
think
see.
the biggest ones are. So we got things like a new world. Capturing
Whole new world.
capturing Pokemon is a little different. A little bit.
Capture.
Battling is completely different. We want to let me go with the other stuff and then we'll come back to that. Riding Pokemon. Yeah. Trainer battles.
I can explain the context for some of these.
Okay.
Let me know when you're ready.
Evolution. Move learning, which oh my God. Please do what they
Game
do in this
changer.
game. Crafting. It's a big one. Different kind of story, missions and side quests, and boss fights. There's a few other ones too. How do you pronounce that?
Hisuian.
Oh God, Hisuian. Forms, research tasks for the bane of my existence. Space-time distortions, difficulty, spirit tomb wisps. Oh, I remember those. Outbreaks, massive mouse outbreaks, alpha Pokemon, merit points, no HMs. Simplified gameplay, although I don't. Maybe. All right.
Simplified from the modern style.
Gotcha. Let's capture some of these big ones.
Sure.
New world. How do you think this world is different than the ones prior?
It's not about me. It's about Polygon, the authors of this article. 12 major changes of Pokemon. They made this article, I think, just before the game came out. It's the classic, like, commercial news style is to publish something like ahead of time when it's searchable. Their first one was a new world. It's, I guess if you contrast this with like any mainline Pokemon game where it's more like urban, you're going like village to village and city to city. They have technology, they have computers like Bill's PC. This is not that world. This is an uncharted world, with like tribes, nomadic people. You're in Jubilife Village, and even they don't like foreigners. Like, everyone's very tribal. That's a big change.
Well, I think it's also different in just execution because you're given. You don't actually travel to the areas like physically. It's almost like you mentioned it earlier, an SMT game where you basically have a menu and you pick an area to go to, and then you're transported there, and then you have. I hate to say it, but a relatively open world within that confined space, which is an oxymoron, but it's the only way I can think to describe it quickly. So it's also like a different like execution on a Pokemon world, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, up to this point, I guess, like what is the closest approximation for the 3D Pokemon world? Pokemon Sword and Shield had an open area.
Yeah, it had it had an open area until it wasn't.
And then everything else was your tried and true.
Yes.
Count it down and go on the road, Route 207.
I love that in Pokemon Sword and Shield, they're like, let's test an open world. And they're like, how do you want to do it? And they're like, right there on the map. It's like this circle right here. That's our test.
Tease them.
What a joke. Capturing Pokemon. I guess it's more tactile. Like where you're holding the Pokeball and you throw it at it.
Yeah. Okay. What was that like for you?
It's subtle, but it's one of the best parts of this game. Is the physical manifestation of throwing your Pokeball at your target is like I think it's really what this game like a shining example of what this game brought to the world. is a feeling that you are actually in a Pokemon world doing Pokemon stuff. So I actually think I'm very high on throwing the Pokeball yourself, which sounds simple, but I think its implications are immeasurable.
Yeah, and I think the entire process of getting the Pokeball is earned with one of the future things, which is the crafting. Because early on, you really don't have like the funds to buy a bunch of Pokeballs, so you got to just go battle Badoost and get apricorns, and then go Pokeballs, and then use them and throw them. You can throw them before you even go into battle. You don't even have to go into battle to throw the Pokeball to get the Pokemon. There are other strategies, like you can throw like berries or something to get them to eat. I had no success with that, so I only stuck with the Pokeballs.
Same.
Uh, I I've probably dished out over 2,000 Pokeballs capturing all of them.
Wow. I imagine you would have to. Yeah.
So that's different. And you know, some I did mention you have to catch a couple of them in battle. Some of them I did just anyway. And then also you're gonna catch repeat Pokemon to complete some of these research tasks. So the entire process is really cool. You know, and then I played with like stealth mechanics too, because you can hide in the grass and kind of watch their movements, wait for them to turn their back, get a backslash, and get the perfect catch. I want to throw a shell quote in there. Really feeding it. Also, there's like two more things that are like huge on the capturing. So there's one when you're in the water, and one when you see a Pokemon flying around the air. Did you dabble with either of those?
I feel like I did in the water. It's not coming to me what was so unique about that one.
Well, in a
The air, no.
Pokemon game, you'd usually fish. You'd
Okay.
have the fishing rod. There's no fishing rod. You ride on the back of a Bascalion, and so if you can try and close up on the Pokemon, but sometimes they'll swim away. So you can engage it in battle, throw a Pokemon, and then try and catch it that way. But I discovered later on that if you jump in the air with the Bascalion, lock onto the target, it actually slows down the game, like Prince of Persia style, like Sands of Time or something. And
Whoa.
you can check to see if the Pokemon, if you can throw the ball at it, because some of them, like the pre-evolved form of it, will swim away. If you throw the ball, second you throw the ball, it goes back to normal time, and then you see if you caught it. It's like it's just so thrilling when you actually make that catch.
That's sick. And I'm guessing the flying one is when you're flying?
No, it's stupid. You can't do it when you're flying, which I understand because Braviary, you're hanging onto the hang glider. But sometimes you'll see a fucking Togetic or like a Magnezone just floating around in a circle, or like the Gyarados. You actually sometimes you can't lock onto them. There was balls you can make called wing balls or jet balls. There's another one that's like a light ball. If you threw it, it like went further and faster. I
Hmm.
remember.
Oh, I remember the
Well,
balls. I definitely didn't use them.
if you threw a Pokeball, it would just go up and down. It would arc, but the wing ball would kind of go out and like.
Oh.
So that was the trick to catching the flying ones. You'd have to aim it, catch their timing, and then I'd always go in a circular pattern, so it kind of defied reality or realism. And
Whatever.
um, I don't know. It just became a game of computation at that point. At what point is it going to get here with this velocity? And so you try and time it. But if you could lock on, it's easier.
Nice. Yeah, those are good tips. The battling in this game, it's pretty much completely different when you really look at it. There's a couple differences. So strong and agile attacks, which I didn't do any of and never needed to. But I literally, I'm sitting there playing it and I'm seeing the enemy like go, I'm gonna switch to agile, and it'll do like 2 attacks or whatever.
The little dramatic move, yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, don't waste my time, whatever. So old man shouting at clouds did not do any of that.
Wait, can I talk about that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there is a strategy to it because there's a turn order. And it's based on your Pokemon's speed. So if a Pokemon is drastically slower, it'll get less turns. Like you might see like Pikachu, Geodude, Pikachu, Geodude. So if you switch to an agile style, and suddenly Pikachu gets 2 moves before Geodude does.
Mhm.
And the way that you can hack that is by using the agile style first and then switching to strong style. So you can actually knock a Pokemon out in 2 turns that way. And then it's also risky because you're using 2 power points, 2 PP, when you do agile or strong.
Oh, I
So
didn't
if you
know
have
that.
moves that aren't high in PP, uh, then you're gonna use it up pretty quickly. Also, if you miss, it ruins your speed terribly.
Oh.
Even with the agile thing, and the strong one already sets you up for the next Pokemon to go twice a lot of times. So it can be risky to do the strong style move. Also, they're really good for a lot of these research tasks. The Pokemon it usually says, "See this Pokemon use Arcanine use a strong style move like a dozen times." And that can help you document stuff faster, which
Mm.
leads to higher ranks in the game and better bonuses and more Pokemon obeying you. Hey,
What do you got on rotating Pokemon?
yeah, okay, let me explain this. So in a mainline game, if you're mid battle and you switch Pokemon, the next Pokemon just attacks you. It gets the attack in.
Mm.
Say I have Psyduck, Voltorb. Okay, obviously Psyduck's going to get hit by Voltorb, so I'm going to switch to Geodude. Voltorb used Thunderbolt. Not this time. This time you can just switch to Geodude or whatever to Geodude, and love bringing Geodude into the archive.
You have to.
And absolutely, Geodude would also get the first turn to switch from Psyduck. So it kind of changes the game. But say you're in a trainer battle, they have 6 Pokemon. Okay, boom, Geodude takes out Voltorb. Next person gets to throw in their Pokemon. You do not get to switch, and oftentimes they get the first attack. But I found that a lot of times in these trainer battles, I was getting hammered, man. Like, because I would lose like 3 or 4 of my guys in the battle before the match was up. So it's a different way of thinking about how you're using your team, who you're setting yourself up with. There's not a lot of trainer battles, but the ones that are there make you think about how to use them.
We've kind of danced around it too, but the actual like mechanics of combat are different. And I liken it to Dragon Quest 11.
Quest 11, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so you know where I'm going with this is that in all of Dragon Quest it's always structured by your agility or speed, whatever you want to call it. But in Dragon Quest 11, it takes it to a different level where when you issue a command to one unit, which you will do in that game, that it is for sure that attack will go through right now because it's his or her turn. That's the same as this version of Pokemon, is that they've already calculated it for you. So now when you attack, you're attacking knowing that it's your turn, which changes the style of Pokemon entirely. And it took me a while to even piece it together in my head. That's what was going on. But yeah, like in normal Pokemon, let's say you have a mid-tier speed Pokemon, like a Charmander or something, and the other Pokemon was like another mid-tier one. I don't know what it would be, but you kind of having to guess if you're going to get the first attack, and sometimes you might switch to a different attack if you don't not sure that you're going to go. So you might pick a different move, or just trying to predict which is going first. In this game, it's guaranteed that your move is going to be next because you're physically attacking, which changes the entire game of Pokemon. And it seems subtle, but it's huge in how you're determining battle.
My likening was actually more in a visual standpoint where you're the trainer kind of just walking around the field. In Dragon Quest 11, you're the hero doing it, but I mean, you also participate in the battle. The trainer does in a sense, but not the same sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I just like going around and seeing a freaking Onyx like in the huge looming over, and then he just suddenly uses Stone Edge, and I get to like kind of walk around and change my peripheral, and it's like a circular grid, and then you can also run from the battles, like guaranteed.
Yeah. Um, it's
Nice.
fu- it's funny that you say you're not involved because one thing that made me chuckle during this game was one of my, I think my fire Pokemon, whatever his name was, Cyndaquil.
Okay,
It
yeah, yeah.
turns into something else.
Explosion.
Um, Typhlosion, there it is. I had like this really strong move at the end of the game that did like huge. It didn't do AOE damage because that doesn't really exist in Pokemon, but it did. I mean, it kind of does, but the animation is like this huge explosion of fire, and almost always my trainer was very close to him and would get knocked down from it, which is
Yeah.
a really
This
funny
was
touch.
overheat. Yeah, it would spin and
Yes,
then just knock my guy down too.
overheat every time I'd be too close, so I'd always get knocked down, which is really funny. Really great touch because it makes you feel like you're in the world. A lot of stuff like that makes you feel you're in the world, which is good. Um,
Just a quick bit on status
yeah.
effects. So in previous games, if like your Pokemon gets frozen, like you get stuck and you can't move the entire time until you thaw out. This game it just does damage, and then with paralysis, it actually just recovers over a couple turns, and then sleep effects are um may or may not like
You get,
sleep.
you get
There's like a
drowsy.
drowsiness. Yeah. Actually, I thought this like made it more of a gentleman's game. It was a bit fairer. Sometimes I find those status effects annoying. Oh, poison heals over time.
Yeah.
Um, so I kind of like the battle system here. I thought it was fair.
Yeah. It was is a different take on it and a lot of positive changes I think they made. Which ironically they did not do with Scarlet.
In the mainline game.
Yes. uh riding Pokemon, I guess you could use that phrase. I don't necessarily consider it that, but I mean technically I guess you
What'd you
do
call it?
ride them, but I would say HM Pokemon. So you get Pokemon that serve certain purposes for you. I guess you ride them generally, so I guess it makes sense. But I don't know. I just never thought of it that way. I thought of it as Pokemon that solve problems for you. So some of them
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
like you fly on them, or some of them you surf on them. Sound familiar? Some of them you're able to destroy rocks. And,
21st century Pokemon in a first century world.
trainer battles. I don't
Wait,
know.
wait, just real quick about the Pokemon. All of those ones are like the Hisuian forms. They're exclusive to
Oh, I didn't
this
know that.
generation of Pokemon. Um, so they are. First one is a worm deer. That's an evolution of Stantler. That's local to this one. Ursaluna is Ursaring's exclusive form to this game as an evolution. Bascalion and Bascalegion. I don't even think those are. I don't even know what other games those are in. Uh, Sneasler. You probably know Sneasel from Gen 2, but Sneasler is like I think that's completely new. Some of these might be like Sun and Moon things. That's when I really checked out.
Right.
So that's possible. And then the last one is Braviary. I think Braviary is a Gen 5er, but this form is unique to this game
Hmm.
from Rufflet.
Okay. That's pretty neat.
There'll be more on these forms later. A lot to say.
Trainer battles. I don't know what the hell it's changed in that.
Nah, we talked about that. That's fine.
Evolution.
Oh
Was
my
that
gosh.
was it
No, it's
that
huge.
different? Okay.
Is is in a mainline game, you used to have to trade Pokemon to get like the certain evolutions, the Gengars, the Alakazam. That's from Gen 1 all the way back. And I mean, even nowadays, like you still need to do that. To get a Steelix, you got to attach an iron coat onto it. You know, to get a freaking Golbat to evolve into Crobat, he's got to level up with friendship.
Hmm.
That shit's done. Don't do that anymore. They let you just use like stones or a metal coat, or they give you a linking cable that you can use to evolve these things.
Hmm.
And often, like you can actually use merit points, which are going to come up later, to purchase a lot of these things from a salesman in Jubilife Village. So it's really convenient. I didn't have to buy all of them. Some of them I just found as items in space time distortions. But also, I found a lot of these Pokemon in the wild anyway. Like, I saw a freaking Steelix and a Gengar and a Gliscor, so I don't even have to think about it for the most part. There are several really annoying evolutions that are going to stop you from completing this Pokédex naturally. I have a couple of them. They're horror stories, and they're the reason I played so much. And at some point, I got really frustrated. If you get to that point with those Pokemon, I just highly suggest going on Cerebi or Bulbapedia and looking up how to evolve them. It's very specific things you have to do.
Wow. I wouldn't do it.
Tell you the top 5 worst Pokemon evolution methods in all of Pokemon by the end of this.
Okay, move learning is incredible. You keep all of them in a pool and you pick the ones you want.
Genius.
Why is this
Absolutely
new?
genius.
This is why is this a new thing? Like this is incredible.
It's like, let's listen to the feedback. And
Yeah.
no HMs.
Yeah.
Nothing's taking up a goddamn slot. It's not new, by the way. I think that's in Sword and Shield 2, I think.
Yeah. Well,
But
yeah, I think it was. And then it's definitely in the Scarlet. And it was in the Pearl and Diamond remakes as well.
okay.
But
Great change, though. I'm a
oh yeah.
big fan.
Okay, crafting. This is a big change. And you know what? I thought I would really get into it and I didn't. But it is a huge change.
Yeah.
It is cool to be able to make your own Pokeball. That as a kid I would be freaking out about.
Yeah. I really only messed with this for the different types of Pokeballs and the Hyper Potions and the Revives. And Max Revives and Max Potions. And anything outside of that didn't matter. Uh, I guess it was nice because it, like, made me resourceful in the game, like, saving my items, like but you could just go buy apricorns in town anyway for, like, 100 yen or whatever the currency is, and then you can make them that way. So at one point, I just bought, like, 999 apricorns because I was overflowing with money. Um, you can also buy Pokeballs and Ultra Balls, but they are considerably more expensive. I think where it falls short is like I think this is where it begins to get the Breath of the Wild comparisons, like, oh, craft your own materials to create your own adventure, but it's not as deep. So like
Hmm.
if you look at it from a Breath of the Wild lens, you're gonna be disappointed. It's just not that.
Oh, from
I
a
guess I could
lot of
save
angles.
could save those comparisons for a bit, but
Yeah,
it's just I think it's fine for the bare necessities, and that's all you really need it for.
I agree. Yeah, I that's all I use it for too. Well, I'm out of Pokeballs. Better go get my apricorns.
Time for some more. Yeah, get some apricorns.
Um, do you have anything more to say about the story? We covered a little bit of it.
Ah.
Yeah. Missions and side quests.
Mm.
Look, I mean,
There are some that like are relevant. There was like a balloon fight thing that was fun.
I, I guess I don't
Did
know.
you didn't mess with these? Yeah.
I did a couple of them and quickly realized, well, at least from what I played, that these were not that important. So I just
Not
abandoned them.
that important, and they're not that beneficial for the most part.
But some people like to do side quests, so I mean, there's no harm in a side quest. There's no harm in it,
Yeah.
but it's just not amazing. The missions
I think I
were
got like some important Pokemon or items out of it or something.
yeah. Well, the missions were kind of cool because they were like hunting missions, which was really neat, and obviously it almost like this is going to be crazy, but stick with me on this. This is a bit of a stretch. I'll admit that. I kind of got the Witcher vibes from this game with the missions because it was like hunt down this there's some Pokemon that's shooting electricity out and it's getting dangerous, and it's like you figure out what's wrong with it, and it's like okay, now destroy it, and you're like, well, I don't know if I should destroy it. Maybe it's doing this for a reason. You try to understand it. And in that way, it felt like I almost had a choice in what was going on. You don't really, but it's like it kind of makes you think about it more than other Pokemon games ever really do. So I was impressed by the missions. At least they tried to do something
Yeah,
cool. Um,
it's fair.
so here's a pretty big one. These boss fights. Oh boy, did they go off the rails on these boss fights.
This is where it starts to get unhinged.
Yeah. Uh it uses it
Alms.
this is
ALMS.
yeah, Balms. This is where it turns into an action RPG for the most part. Is you tossing bombs at a Pokemon until its health goes to zero. That is like, and then it's at first it's really easy, and then as the game progresses, obviously the Pokemon get more and more aggressive and turns more into like a dodging situation. Um,
Yep.
Man, this was pretty weird. Did you expect this?
The trainer battles? That's new.
Yeah.
Holy shit! Dodge roll everywhere. Bomb, 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 bomb. Like it's just wow. Like it's actually intense. Like it's pretty sweat inducing. There are checkpoints, so if you die, you can respawn with like quartiles of your progress. I found out it was quartiles in the end game or the post game. But so like it's fair, but like if you're a kid playing this, like it's intense.
There are checkpoints?
So the boss has a health bar, right?
Right.
Yellow bar that it depletes, and it's split into quartiles.
Right.
There's like different phases of the boss. So if you get it to this quartile and you die, this point on, it'll start here if you'd like. You can save your progress.
I didn't know that. I had to restart every time.
Oh,
The ice one was I did many times. Not the final boss, but the ice one. I had to do that a number of times. I did not know that there was a checkpoint system. So
doing that, if you do what you did for the Arceus battle, freaking god tier. I died like 10 times just in the last half hour before this thing.
oh wow. I bet. Jeez. Ah, that's cool. I didn't know
It's nuts. It's nuts.
that. Any of the
That's with the progression thing. I died 10 times.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Any of these additional ones you've listed that you want to discuss before we do a little list?
These are huge to me. I mean, Hisuian forms. Some of these Pokemon look different than you might know them. Are there any that you know? Quiz Spencer time.
Mm, none that I found. But I only know
did you
like
think-
Gen 1 Pokemon. So
When you evolved Cyndaquil, what did you think?
oh yeah, it did look different, didn't it? See, I don't even know Gen 2 Pokemon that well, but I knew it looked a little different. I think you're right. Yeah.
It was like the second I evolved him, I was streaming it and Terry was calling him Stoner Typhlosion. Because he
he's
looked
like a-
stoned and he had like the ghost waves,
He
everything.
looked more like a surfer. Like a surfer
Yeah.
dude.
It was
Yeah.
really cool. Like this game had a lot of ghost Pokemon, like a lot, and it was some of them changed forms too, like Zoroark, which you wouldn't know. It's like a Gen 5er, but it was like a dark type originally, and now it's like normal ghost. That's a very unique typing. Then I'm trying to think what are some of the other forms. Obviously, with the three starters that they picked, they all have unique forms. Although I didn't even know what the Samurott or the Decidueye even looked like. Sneasel had two forms. It had like a purple and a black form. You probably recognize Sneasler because you had to use it to ride around.
Mhm.
I'm trying to think. Oh, Arcanine. I saw Arcanine in one of the boss battles. It looks like a little rough, raggedy,
Hmm.
kind of dark. That's because it's rock type and fire type now.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, they did
Yeah,
that.
it looked like
They first started doing that in the Hawaiian
Sun and
Pokemon
Moon.
game, right? Sun and
Yeah.
Moon, yeah.
with Top Hat wheezing.
The
No
gentleman
Top Hat
wheezing
wheezing
we
in this
always wanted.
But don't trust him if you learned anything.
Yeah, he ain't sexy.
Oh, D tier, baby. um, there's like a couple more that stood out to me. What I want to say about the Arcanine because I guess because it has like the volcanic rock, like Bob imbued in it. Like that's really cool. And then also with Dialga and Palkia, they have interesting forms as well. They have like multiple forms, and they look like Arceus at some point. I guess I shouldn't say too much about that, but um,
Spoiler alert.
whoops,
Um,
sorry.
now that I'm looking at this, the next one that you have listed here was hard for me. The research tasks.
Okay. So a research task is an additional challenge in addition to catching a Pokemon you have to do in order to level up your rank. And you have to level up your rank a lot of times or in the early game to get higher level Pokemon to obey you. And also, I think to progress through the story. I know you had a bit of a rough time with that. You want to start?
Yes. So some people when they play Pokemon, they gotta catch them all. That is not me. I pick a lineup that's mostly chronological, and then basically what I mean is I catch the Pokemon that are interesting to me, and as soon as my 6 slots are filled up, I stop, and those are my Pokemon for the rest of the game. Um, you can't really do that in this game. The whole point, and understandably so, the whole point of this game is to literally collect as many as possible and research as many as possible. What that could mean is you've collected the Psyduck. Uh, what happens if you electrocute that Psyduck? What happens if you electrocute 10 Psyducks? What happens if you catch 10 Psyducks? So you end up exploring Pokemon in ways that were at first very annoying to me. I was not happy about it, and that's actually why I stopped playing for many, many, many months. And by many, I mean probably a year or something like that. Is I just I I was like, oh, to get past this next area, I think it was I got to the third area and was like done with it. And then they're like, you can't go to the next area until you're like a level 4 guy or something, whatever it was. And I said, oh, well, I'll just stop playing because I'm good here. I think I got what I needed. And so I literally stopped playing for like a year. And then when we decided to play it again, I picked it up. I'm like, why did I stop playing this game? And then I went around, did a couple things. And then I was like, oh, you got to go to this guy and he'll upgrade you so you can go to the next world or next map. And so I went to him and he was like, yeah, you got to upgrade your level. I'm like, oh, okay. How far am I? It's like, you're like 3,000 points away. And I said, oh, that couldn't be that bad. And then I went out and I was like, I'll catch this Haunter. And so I caught the Haunter and it was like, you got 10 points. I said, oh my God. And so that set me off on a journey of trying to feign interest in collecting all the Pokemon or whatever. But I will say, in understanding what the game is trying to do, where the story is that they literally have never seen these Pokemon before and are interested in understanding them, it actually makes a lot of sense that it forces you to do that, because that's literally what you're there for, is to help the people understand these Pokemon and understand what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and how to live with them. And I did find it fun in the later portion to fully explore certain Pokemon and be like, okay, I've finally killed it like 10 times with this move, and now I'm actually at a rank 10 of my knowledge of this Pokemon. You get a little boost for that. And I did actually learn to appreciate it. I wish I had that appreciation earlier as I was playing it, because I was very, very mad coming
Yeah.
back to this game and having that
Yeah.
obstacle. Yeah.
Understandably so. I fortunately never had progression stagnated, but I was confused Remember the beginning of the game, they're giving you tutorials like catch a Bidoof and catch one more and just keep catching them. And I'm like, What? Like, why do I have a party of 5 Bidoofs? I just didn't understand.
Yeah.
I was reteaching my brain, and I think it probably took me a good 2 hours to really like get what was happening.
Yeah.
And I think once you do it, it really is rewarding because, I mean, on the one hand, you are tasked with catching them all and completing the decks. You don't have to like really like get every research entry. That's like another level of completion I personally don't think I care for. I have about 150 or so, so I could because it's like 240 around. There's a couple Pokemon I will never get unless I get Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, so that's fine. But you can you can just kind of be sufficient with catching them all, or even seeing them all. I think, but I think like there's a fun too in some of the tasks, like like it actually teaches you in a sense, like this is what this Pokemon is weak to. What will happen if you see Psyduck die to electrocution? And so if you're a new Pokemon player, you could actually learn like the typings that way.
Hmm.
And then I think they also want you to see like a Pokemon use like its signature move. They want you to know like, oh yeah, Alakazam is psychic. Or some of these newer moves like Typhlosion, they want you to use Infernal Hex or whatever the ghost move is. And it is cool just seeing the spectacle and seeing it a number of times, seeing it do a strong style one. And some of them I didn't like. I didn't like see it eat food. Okay. I don't even know how to throw the food at it. But I never got to rank 10. I'm at rank 9.5 right now. That's like before the final rank. It is like a 1,700 or 3,000 point gap, oddly enough, which is a lot. I think it's like 100 points when you complete a Pokemon's research entry, and then also like 10 or so for every task that you complete.
Hmm.
There are benchmarks, so it's like if you do it once, you catch one, boom, easy check. Catch 5, boom, easy check, and so on and so forth. And then it gets harder as you go forth.
Yeah.
But innately, the system is rewarding and makes sense in terms of the overall narrative.
Space-time distortions. I don't think I hit
Okay.
one of these.
You must have seen a space-time distortion is forming, because especially when after you've conquered the 5 alpha Pokemon, the big, god tier ones, uh, whatever Pokemon or like the Sinnoh god Pokemon they said was like unleashing havoc is causing these things to appear more. So in these, you know how your character comes out of like the ether in the beginning of the game,
Hmm.
dropped from space into this like feudal Japan.
Yeah.
Well, Sinnoh God Pokemon is basically causing the same thing to happen, and these distortions are causing Pokemon from bygone eras to appear. So at one point in like the Coronet Highlands, you get like the fossil Pokemon, and another like suddenly a bunch of the evolutions start appearing, which is really nice because like I don't want to evolve Eevee into Umbreon during the night. So I caught a lot of like off-branded Pokemon that way. The problem is some of them are space-time distortion exclusives, and the way that the space-time distortion appears is based on how much time you've spent in the area without a break. So I think that Cerebi has a really good breakdown of these. If you want to get all of the Pokemon in the game, you have to encounter these, and they're chance-based. So in trying to complete my Pokédex, was floating around the same island without resting for like 40 minutes waiting for one of these things to appear. I texted you last night, I'm not finishing this damn thing because I was convinced I couldn't even get one to appear in the area I was in. But if you're patient and you know how the system works, it will happen. The only thing I really hated was not really understanding the system. I think there are a couple of things in this game that are not well explained, and this is one of them, especially considering it's a necessity for completing the game.
That's crazy. No, I swear, I don't think I saw one. Maybe it's because,
It's like this big purple thing that like appears. Maybe you saw it when you started the game and it just haven't seen it since.
well, maybe no, maybe I've seen them, but like I haven't experienced
Onto
anything,
them, yeah.
anything like that. And it
Probably
might
set
be,
it on the map and then you didn't go. You're like, that's not the main quest.
Yeah, I was like, fuck that. That seems dangerous. So I didn't go. Plus,
Danger for a
I
Pokemon game.
constantly teleported back, so maybe
Mm.
that was slowing me down too. Because I wouldn't. Maybe it didn't count me as being in there uninterrupted for that long.
So these things are huge for just catching more Pokemon. I think when you were having trouble getting to the next area, I texted you like go find a space time distortion because you could go hide in the grass and then suddenly there's a Magmar, an Eevee, and a Floatzel or something walking around. You just keep throwing Pokeball, 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 and then once they engage you in battle, they're like level 50 fuckers. Like they're really hard to battle. They are dangerous, but you also get a lot of cool items out of it, like a lot of like rare ones,
Okay,
upgrades and like stuff to evolve Pokemon. If you want to dabble in the post game, I'd say just go try and find some.
there you go. You have difficulty listed here, huh?
Okay, so so Terry said this is Pokemon for babies now. Do you agree?
Um, I mean it's easy, but all Pokemon games are easy. I don't know why this is easier or harder than any of the other ones.
Hey, Terry's argument is that, and I'm acknowledging it for the sake of the conversation. His argument is that, like in the previous Pokemon games, at least you died and went back and lost half your currency.
Not in the newer ones.
Okay.
You don't lose nearly half your currency.
This one, you can die. You lose your team, and then your trainer basically starts running. But the Pokemon can attack your trainer. If your trainer dies, you lose a satchel with a lot of your items.
Mhm.
So I actually lost a lot of good, like I lost nuggets and moonstones and at a couple points where I was trying to catch some of these legendary Pokemons. It was devastating because I was like, I need these to like evolve my guys.
Well,
Um,
to counter Terry, in Dark Souls, known as one of the hardest games ever, when you die, you lose all your resources, but you can go back and get them. So
mm,
and maybe Pokemon Legends Arceus is harder than that because they just take them away entirely.
and that's also notwithstanding those damn grueling boss battles.
There were some really difficult boss battles. I oddly enough not very Pokemon like, but they were hard nonetheless. Especially if you didn't know that you could checkpoint it.
Even with it though, I'm telling you, man, that Arceus battle is nuts. And also in the post game, there is like a real like final battle. I think there like in the main game there is one before the Dialga Palkia fight, but the post game is like when they really hit you with the back to back like battle the real trainer, fight Giratina, fight second form, origin form Giratina, and you're doing this with only your 6 Pokemon with the already structured, insane battle mechanics where you can't switch out Pokemon when another Pokemon comes in and it gets the attack in. They basically
Mm,
set you up to lose that battle. It's very hard, but you have to win it.
you have to.
You must. Terry. I
Spirits.
saw I saw difficult moments. Anyways, go ahead.
Well, I think just like a lot of these games, with difficulty, you just have to find it. Like maybe the game itself isn't difficult, but if you're looking for difficulty, they offer you many instances of it. You
It
just
is mandated though. It's in the core gameplay. It's not like I would have to reinvent the way I not like do the 6 Pokemon challenge. You can't. You can't do the 6 Pokemon challenge. But I think that it like there are moments like they set you up with some of these things like the XP share, all of that to make it easier for when you get to those harder parts.
hmm. Yeah, I just don't know that I ever struggled that much. But
No, I didn't die too much in the main game. When
yeah,
do
it's
you ever in the main game?
right.
You know
That's what
you're
I mean.
fighting
Is
like
that
these
the game is inherently pretty easy. It's always been, except for maybe if you go
the Elite
back,
Four.
Gen 1 is
No,
probably more challenging, but the Elite 4 is
it's the end game though. Like that's when
yeah.
you die. That's when you're supposed to die, and that's what's happening in Arceus too. So like I don't.
Yeah, I don't that's strange. I don't really agree with that with
And
Terry.
besides which, a veteran Pokemon player will already know to go spend all their currency before they go to the gym battle anyway.
Yeah. My
Don't
friends
lose the
showed me
money.
they taught me that they always save before, so if it ever goes bad, they just turn off the game and turn it back on.
That's a hack, yeah. But I like to keep the leveling up if any of my Pokemon level up.
That's true.
To each their own.
That's true. You can't pay for experience. Um,
Experience is the best teacher.
Spiritomb Wisps. These reminded me of SMT5, but I think they were done so much better
Oh,
in
yeah. What
SMT5.
was it even in SMT5? It was like I remember that like goblin looking thing on this throne.
I don't remember the name of it, but it was so much fun to find those. I didn't find any joy in these ones.
Oh my god, it was those little demons that would like go talk to you.
And they'd give you like 5 of the points to upgrade your thing.
Yeah, the 5 upgrade points and they have some little like quirky like saying or something.
Yeah. Oh,
Fun. They were funny and cute.
yes.
This is just like find all 107 of the wisps, otherwise something bad will happen, and then you find them 106 more to go.
Yeah.
And you can only really see them at night.
Yeah, they were a pain. I didn't even every time I found one, I was like, "Oh, these are in this game." I forgot, and then immediately forgot that they were in there again.
So
So,
you have to get all of them to catch Spiritomb, which is a Pokemon you need to complete the dex to eventually catch Arceus. I enjoyed the process. I didn't look up a guide for any of them. I managed to find all of them naturally. They're all like on the overworld. There's no like really cheaply hidden ones, I wouldn't say.
hmm.
I'm in logical places, but it's not like your typical like Donkey Kong go like right before the level. You know, like that's not you're not really seeing that.
You never felt like they were trying to trick you with it.
Mm,
Hmm.
mm,
Like it's in a bush.
mm. None of that. Although
uh,
the nighttime thing was tricky because you would have to really go at dusk or later.
I mean, luckily you can always like rest until then, right?
Yeah, I definitely took advantage of that.
What were the mass outbreaks?
I'm trying to think if this happens before post game because in the post game they have something called massive mass outbreaks. Prior to that, you would see only like one group of Pokemon just outbreak in an area, like an outbreak of Tangela, the coastlands, Cobalt coastlands. But in the post game, it would be in rainy conditions, and you would see a bunch of question marks on your map, and they would be like hordes of that Pokemon.
Hmm.
And it's really interesting because oftentimes, except for the space-time distortions, you wouldn't engage in horde battles, but you could attract like a lot of these things at once. And this was also a way to farm for shiny Pokemon. Some of them would have a sparkle next to them. Others would have these like guava berries, which you would use to identify what those Pokemon are. You'd have to pay some ladies Munchlax, 5 of them. So it's the easy way to kind of farm for specific Pokemon that you wanted, or to battle certain ones, complete their dex entries, etc.
Hmm. Okay. Alpha Pokemon were massively overleveled Pokemon placed in the
Actually bigger.
bigger. They're like red,
Yeah, with red
scary.
eyes. What's the craziest
Ooh.
alpha Pokemon you ran into?
Um, I think I was feeling really confident at the volcano, and then I was like, "Oh, I'm blowing through this. I feel like I'm stronger than I'm supposed to be." And then I made my way through that volcano, and then I think it was a Ninetales on the volcano,
Oh,
and I was
yeah, on the
like,
corner of it, yeah.
"I'm gonna go beat that Pokemon's ass. Maybe I'll catch it." So I was like, "Side or Golduck?" I bet at the time. I was like, "Golduck, make short work of this dog," and then it destroyed me. It just completely wiped the floor with me. And that's probably my worst story. I think I pretty much avoided them after that. I just said, fuck it. What about you?
So in the post game, I think some of the harder ones I caught were they have the starters from Gen 4, their evolved forms walking around in various locations. It's really rewarding to go find them. So Infernape was like really freaking challenging for me. He would just keep kicking my ass. You get an agile style close combat. My next Pokemon would come in, wouldn't get a move in, also get agile. And they're like level 70 at that point, all the ones walking around.
Oh shit.
So those starter Pokemon were really tough. Alakazam is not to be fucked with. Seriously. His psychic, he's already like the strongest special attacker in the entire like game. Um, but he's floating around in the core area and he just will destroy you. And he's fast too. The funniest looking one I saw was a Magikarp. It
A
was an Alpha
Magikarp?
Magikarp. Alpha Magikarp swimming in the bottom of a waterfall in the Coronet Highlands. And
Weird.
it can't do anything but splash. But engaging with it's so funny because just imagine an oversized Magikarp with beaming red eyes, like goo 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 goo. It's so dumb, but I was like, I caught an Alpha Magikarp. Okay.
That's bizarre. Yeah, just splashing angrily.
Some of them are preset, and other ones they just like will be like normal Pokemon you see on the screen, but they randomize it. So I'd see like Alpha Geodudes or Alpha Starlies. It was always weird seeing the first evolved form be an Alpha.
Um, Merit points and lost satchels.
This is where it goes more mystery dungeon esque. You know this feature where it's like you die and you lose like a satchel of your items.
Yeah.
Sometimes you would see satchels on the map. You could return it to a player if you have internet connected. They would get your satchel.
Oh,
So if you lost some items and you were connected to the internet, other people could pick it up for you and it would get returned to you.
that's cool. I like that feature. I like that.
It was so useful for me when I lost my bag of frickin' all of my evolutionary items.
Mm.
Somebody returned it to me. Bless you, player.
No HMs. I feel like we kind of covered, but God bless
Just
them.
one thing about the merit points, you can use those merit points to buy evolutionary items from the town. So, if you want that Caesar, Steelix, etc.
And you get the merit points
What?
by returning the satchel.
Yeah, it's not many. You get like 50, 90, depending on the qualities of the satchel. And usually you need like 1,000 to get one of these items. But, oftentimes I was picking them up naturally in the game anyway. But some of them I needed.
Okay. Well, I guess that's a way like they circularly try to encourage a positive player experience, which is smart. They should always do stuff like that.
HMs we covered. Gameplay is simplified. So in the modern Pokemons, I think from Gen 3 on, it was like give your Pokemon a berry or an item to hold, and what ability does it have? Will it dodge ground moves? And does its personality like you? Like no, we're not doing any of that. The deepest this system goes is the Pokemon types and what is their move set, and can it use a strong or a fast move, and that's about it. And it's kind of refreshing. I kind of
Yeah.
like that.
No, I like it too, but also because I'm old school. So yeah, it was nice to just go back to. It's nice because, like, when you're fighting in the newer games, you never really know what's going on behind the scenes with the Pokemon you're fighting. Like, it's like, is it holding a berry? So my big move will be negated. Is it holding? Dude, I was playing fucking Brilliant, whatever, the newer Gen 4 release. Brilliant crap. And I was in the Elite Four and I was like I was having trouble with this thing. And I was like, what if I just put this Pokemon to sleep? And that would give me a couple whacks at it. And I put it to sleep. God damn, it was holding a berry that would wake it up if it were put to sleep. I feel like the game is like coding itself to counter you sometimes. And you have no idea if it is or isn't. I guess people will if when they data mine it. But I just find that to be so annoying and like unfun. And I really hate the Pokemon abilities, I think is what it's called in here. Like where they have like the a Geodude has like sturdy where he won't die in one hit. It's like why do this? Is this the way that they make the Pokemon different? I guess stuff like that. It just seems it gets so frustrating because I don't know a whole lot about it. So when I'm in the Elite Four and every single Pokemon has a special ability, I just feel like a prisoner there. I just don't know. Like, I killed you, I thought. I guess I didn't. Oh well. This game's just hard.
It's fine for like competitive online battles, but I'm just trying to play a game. Like I don't need all these rules. Just let me live my life with Wooper.
Yeah. I want to live with Wooper.
Just Wooper, be a Wooper. Come on, I don't need to know it knows water absorb.
All right, Teddy. What are the top 5 biggest changes in Arceus to the Pokemon franchise?
Okay.
We've talked
You want
about
to
them
give
all.
each your top five, my top five?
Sure, yeah. I'll do my top 5 after you.
Great.
Or do you want to go back and forth? I don't know. Whatever one you want to do.
I'll ride the wind. Not like this game because I'm not riding Pokemon. It's not one of my top changes. But I will say that, yeah, I'll just give you my five. I'll give you the
Yeah.
list.
Just give me the 5.
I'm going to kind of consolidate a couple of these. Like, I think just the setting is a huge change, which intersects with the plot. This whole concept of the origin story for Pokemon.
Yeah.
Capturing mechanic is pretty solid. It's new, unique. You make balls and you throw them, and I really like it. Not so much the making part, but the throwing balls. Pokemon Arceus baseball. I think move learning is a game changer. It just takes such a stress level out of the experience. I don't need to know about, am I going to waste this TM or whatever. Let me teach these Pokemon what I want to teach them. Best changes, right?
Oh, that's a problem because I have I have things I don't like.
Oh, it's just biggest changes.
Biggest changes.
Oh. Well, the spirit of big changes, we gotta go with big Pokemon. Alpha and bosses kind of go hand in hand. Boss Pokemon are these like raged alpha Pokemon, which kind of infect like other Pokemon, and they don't infect the Pokemon, but like kind of like insanity going on is like getting to other Pokemon, and they're literally oversized, and their eyes are red. And they're like monsters on the field, like where at times you're severely underpowered, and it can be intimidating. Then I think the research task is a huge change. It's just completing research for certain Pokemon. And then I guess I'll give some runner-ups for smaller changes that I liked. Was I think the merit points in the satchel system is pretty cool. And the different forms for some of these Pokemon, they're relevant to the context. It's not a big change, but I like them. I like experiencing like new versions of this. Like it's not the same old trick, And I did like the fact that I could evolve and complete the decks natively within the game without having to trade.
There you go. I don't know. I pretty much 100% agree with you on that, with the only caveat being the research tasks were horrible for me. So that's the only change I would make, is that it is a big change, but not for like a negative. I think that if you wanted to make that work, it and maybe this is the right time to get into it, but it messed with the pacing of the game. And to me, that became a huge problem. There's 2 problems with the pacing of this game. I don't know if we're ever gonna. Yeah, I'll just say it here. So yeah, I agree with you. Boom. Okay. But so I think the main issue this game has is pacing, and that is one, you're blocked, you're gated, I should say, by your completion of the research tasks. I feel like there's another way they could have done that to integrate them, like maybe giving you some really cool bonuses that are worth your time to make the research tasks make more sense, as opposed to just being like, you can't move until you've gotten to like 5,000 points. And it's like, well, I mean, I played the game, like I did everything you asked, and it's like, nope, you have to do this or else you can't continue. That was very, very frustrating for me. And the other pacing issue is the end of this game. It's the most of the game is like explore these five, I think it was five sections of the map and gather what you can and come back and we'll discuss it or whatever and then destroy that boss. The last like 2 hours of this game is a fetch quest of literally go to this person on the map and give them this item or tell them to do this thing and then go to the next one. I was so baffled at whatever happened at the end of this, like about a red chain and like distributing it to this, and then go to this part on the map, and then go to this part on the map and do it. It was completely antithetical to the rest of the game. I was completely taken aback. I felt like it must have been like an emergency end that was just rushed to finish this game because it was horrible, and I was just baffled by it. I don't know. What's your take on the ending of this game?
I want to address both points.
Okay.
I start with the innate pacing of the gating, like the leveling and like star system. Like you have to be a level 4 star or whatever to go to Cobalt Coastlands, for example.
Yeah.
We had different pacing experiences in that way. So, I think for you, it's like, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that you had to relearn Pokemon. You hadn't relearned it soon enough. So when you got to that point, it screwed with your progression. Versus me, I picked it up in maybe 2 hours. And it's like, at that point, I was just throwing Pokeballs left and right. And, and also I think the fact that you can just see the Pokemon you're battling use a move and it helps a research task benefited me because I was engaging in battles. I was catching Pokemon. It's not only catching Pokemon; it's also engaging with them in battles and in different ways. So I didn't have those same pacing problems because I had opened my mind sooner to the differences in Arceus. Now with the storyline, yeah, I would agree that post World 5 it gets a little fetchy. Sketchy fetchy.
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 That's a new one.
I think it still has relevance to the Gen 4 world. Like you have those sprites, the psychic types, the legendary ones, and I really like their puzzles. Thought that was cool. Maybe I think that does happen. You know what I'm talking about? You go to those caves.
Yeah, I think the puzzles happen before the big fetch quest start.
Maybe you go there twice for some reason. But also, I did like that it's like you solve everything, then you get banished from the village. Like I don't. There was something like
post banishment.
Real.
That's where my problem is. Post banishment.
Yeah.
Like as soon as that happened, I was like, "That's kind of cool," and then it's. But
then it was like,
just
go to the leaders of each town, and they'll help you. Whatever. Yeah. It's not great.
Like there was no like action in between it for most of it. It was mostly just go there and hit the A button near them, and they'll move you on to the next thing.
Yeah, but I remember a couple like big boss battles or something up to that point. Like fight a huge fucking Zoroark or something. I don't know. But I think my saving grace is that the post game story is way better. You encounter so many legendaries and stuff. It almost entirely makes up for that a shitty hour segment leading up to the Dialga Palkia battle.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
it's a redemption arc. You get back to the village or whatever. You save the village because like everything's on fire. So like there is like a real world like problem in the back of your mind. Like you're not allowed back into the village where you were excised from, expelled from, excised. I don't know if that's the right word, but um, and they're mad at you because they think that you're the reason for all these things happening. So I don't know. I still latched onto it. The world was dark, while that was happening, somber music and stuff. So I
Mm.
bought into it.
Mm. I was screaming at my freaking Switch. It's like, just end or
Over it, yeah,
give me
yeah.
something to
Well,
kill. Like, don't.
you would. You would.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that's your style of like how you enjoy games. You're like, just move on, get to the point.
Yeah.
Just for me, I think it's just like experience. You know?
All right, Teddy. This is your section. You're the guy. The Pokedex in this game. Give me all the stats. Give me all the features, the functions, and I want to hear your horror story.
First story with a positive ending.
Okay,
Put it
good.
that way. Hey y'all, did you want to become a Pokemon master in Pokemon Legend Arceus? Well, you've come to the right place. RPG Archive, where we archive all things RPGs. Subscribe if you want to collect all the podcasts. I want to talk to you about the Pokédex and completing it in Pokemon Legends Arceus. There are 3 ways you can approach the Pokédex. They are seen, caught, complete. Just by seeing a Pokemon, it gets registered in your dex. Now, I don't think that counts towards the final mission in the game, which will help you to see the legendary Sinnoh Pokemon. I won't spoil anything. It's not in the title, Arceus, but it's definitely worth the task. I recommend catching all of them. You probably will anyway. But catching them is simply not enough if you want to learn about the Pokemon. In order to do so, you have to complete several of their research task entries. You don't have to do all of them. So, for instance, for a Garchomp, it might be watch it use Stone Edge 25 times, evolve 3 forms of them, see it use a strong style move, kill it with ice. And every time you do one of those, it will count as another research entry. Usually it's like 4 or 5, and then you can get some learning material about the Pokemon. My favorite was Magikarp. It's like, this is the dumbest Pokemon ever, and it's universally hated. Paraphrased, I laughed. I had a horror story completing the decks because I tried to do so naturally. There are 241 some odd entries. In order to get Arceus, you have to believe catch all of them, but maybe see. And I didn't understand a couple of things, including the evolution methods and the space time distortions, which gave me a hard ass time. And there's like one Pokemon that just I had the hardest time freaking finding. Despite the fact that the Pokédex tells you where it's found. That's actually the benefit of seeing them. So I'll start with that. When you see a Pokemon, it tells you where in the map you can find it. Like, say you're in like Obsidian Fieldlands, you could find out, oh, Ponyta is in Horseshoe Plains. So is Togepi. But Togepi will run away if you like, get too close to it. The exclamation point appears, and then you can't just throw the Pokeball. You'd have to engage it in battle, and then it'll probably run away. Mine was Munchlax. It appears 2 locations. One was in the Deer Track Fields, could not find it at all. So I skipped that and I went to the hot springs in the Alabaster Icelands,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to respawn the Pokemon there for like 2 hours,
Holy
at least in one sitting. And that's not counting all of the times I was going around Deer Track Highlands and just in the Alabaster Icelands trying to get fucking Munchlax to appear. It's
When
like
you
only 4
say
Pokemon can even appear there.
when you
Go
say
for it.
refresh, do you mean like you clear them out, or maybe you don't even clear them out, but you go back, like you fast travel back and then go back?
I think you have to clear them out. Or I guess you could fast travel out and then rejoin, but that sounds tedious. What I would do is I would just catch them or battle them, leave like maybe like to the next area, go fight a Machoke, and then come back, and then they'd respawn or something.
Okay.
So I'd just be doing it over and over. It was so tiring. Um, that was Munchlax. A lot of the Pokemon that are new forms to this game, or new to this game in general, have bizarre evolutionary methods, stuff I've never even seen. So, do you know the Pokemon you ride, like the worm deer? It's like that, like deer Pokemon. It's the
Yeah.
first one you get.
Yeah.
Never got one, right?
In the game, like in my Pokedex?
Yeah, you never had one in your Pokedex, right?
I think I did.
No, you didn't. You had Stantler.
I had a deer.
That was Stantler.
Oh,
In order to evolve Stantler to Wormdeer, you have to use the move Psy Shield Bash 20 times in the Agile style before it can evolve.
oh, fuck. I never would have gotten that.
Right. Let's take Ursaluna. You know what Ursaluna evolves from?
Ursa, whatever, that bear?
Ursa Ring, yeah.
Ursa ring, yeah.
You need to evolve it with this like piece of clay item that you can't even buy. You have to just find it in the game when there's a full moon.
Oh my god. That's some like
This is a
SMT
tricky
shit.
one. Yeah, this is crazy. Bascalion. I think it's Basculegion is the evolved form. You catch a Bascalion,
Probably not.
little barracuda fish. Even if you did, you'd have to achieve, I think it's like 350 HP in recoil damage
What
to
the
evolve him.
fuck?
What are these rules, Game Freak? The whole point of this was to be like a fun learn the Pokédex thing.
That's
And
wild.
and I was like, I got every single evolutionary item. I got the linking cable, I got the moonstone, I got the sunstone, I got every single one. And I was like testing it out, like, is it compatible? Is it not compatible? Like, how the hell do you get these damn things? I ride them and I can't even evolve them.
And
I do not understand.
you were trying to do it without looking up any guides or just any Celebi
No,
stuff.
I tried to do no guide. I got to about like 15 left before I felt like I had to use it. So those were a couple of them. Munchlax was another, and then several of them appear in these goddamn space-time distortions. If you look on your Pokédex, they're not available on the map.
Hmm.
That's where they are. They're in these random freaking bubbles that appear based on the amount of time that you're in a location that randomly spawns. So the chances increase. Cerebi did a breakdown. Also, they don't appear in extreme weather, which is basically happening in the entire end game. You're getting snowstorms and rain. And, you have to spend like 40 minutes just sitting in a freaking area to get these things to appear. Now, what I would have done differently is I probably would have caught more of the Pokemon in those space-time distortions when the Dialga Palkia event was happening early in the game,
Hmm.
because they have a higher spawn rate and then they equalize within like 10 minutes or something.
Okay.
Um, that would not have helped that much. And also, I think it's really important that you don't reset the timer by sleeping or exiting the area. So those last 15 were impossible. I will say that I had a great time on the hunt for like the first 220. A couple of the legendaries, it was incredibly rewarding. It actually tied to a couple of the side quests. Go to this patch of flowers that used to exist. See if you can find it. Here's an example. Oh, suddenly Shaman appears. Ah, Shaman, that little grass fucker. Sick. You're not doing that now. That's okay.
I don't know who that
The
is.
3 cloud Pokemon, they're from like Gen 5 or something. They're random as fuck. Thunderous, Landorus. I don't even understand that these are Pokemon, but it would appear randomly on the map like these cyclones. One of them, he appeared in the swamp area, the Crimson Mirelands, and he's the one that killed me and took my damn satchel of like
Hmm.
all my evolutionary items. And because in order to catch him, you have to get his defenses down. You have to throw like a mud ball or something, and then you have to watch to see when you can actually hit him. So rewarding finding them on the map, figuring out the method to catch them. That was only one of the only times I had to think outside of the box about how am I going to catch this Pokemon.
Hmm.
But it was incredible. just before we recorded this archive, I told Spencer yesterday, I'm 2 away. There's no way I'm finishing this thing. This is impossible to find. Booted it up in a last hope. Unspace time distortion appeared, and that fucking fossil Pokemon, Rampardos, Cranidos, appeared. Level 51. I caught it. I evolved it, and I went to Arceus. It was a hard ass task. Arceus battle took me half an hour. But was it worth spending 69 hours and 15 minutes in this game to battle with the god Pokemon, the literal god, and then catch him and put him on my party and watch him use Judgment in the strong style? Hell yeah.
Excellent. I'm glad it has a happy ending.
Yeah.
Very
All
good.
Pokemon games. Don't ask.
Well, let's talk about the legacy of Pokemon Legends Arceus. The Arceus.
This is a bag of worms. Are you ready to talk? You want to do the next one, and then we'll come back to Arceus.
Okay. There's a lot going on there. All right, let's do it. Let's speaking of can of worms, let's make some Breath of the Wild comparisons. Is Pokemon Legends Arceus the Breath of the Wild of Pokemon?
I think you should start.
Okay, no.
Also, no.
So
Why are people calling it Breath of the Wild? Why do you think?
I think that was the impression when it first came out because it did kind of look like it. We weren't given all the different things about the game. It was still fairly well shrouded in mystery. And Breath of the Wild is just right now and has for a long time been put on quite the pedestal as far as Switch games go. As far as any game, but Switch games specifically. So I think people were making that connection and really wanting to believe that that was what it was going to be, because people have been wanting an open world Pokemon game. I mean, that they were just like, why hasn't it been open world yet? It seems like that's the easy next generation or next step. I don't know, things that Breath of the Wild is it does have a big crafting system, which I see Arceus making strides towards. I don't, like you said earlier, I don't know that it really is the same thing, but it has a crafting system. But the biggest thing is Breath of the Wild is true open world, where you can literally go anywhere at any time and have an experience, a gameplay experience. Arceus is definitely gated constantly. You also don't even travel to the locations on the map. You click on them like you would a lot of SMT games. So it's actually not open world at all, really, except for the fact that the worlds that you do explore, the maps, are fairly large. So it does have that going
It's been
for
a
it.
minute since I did Breath of the Wild, but don't you do the same thing?
No, no, you
You can't go. You can't fast travel at all.
you might be able to fast travel, but you can physically travel to every place.
I
Uh,
understand that there's no boundaries between locations. It's one seamless world.
yeah,
Makes sense to me.
yeah. So in the biggest sense of where these two were supposed to be compared, it's absolutely not the same game. So no, this is definitely not Breath of the Wild. Um, Scarlet is more Breath of the Wild, although Jesus Christ, it's a flawed representation of that. So definitely I would say no on the Breath of the Wild comparisons.
Yeah, I don't see it. I mean, I see the influence. It's clear. They probably are tapping into a Breath of the Wild market. Just I wouldn't say it is Breath of the Wild for Pokemon, and I wouldn't say it's a Breath of the Wild clone either, because I think Arceus is its own unique entity.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's like I don't, because if you play Pokemon Diamond, you have recently, they talk a lot about the ancient Pokemon and stuff. Like there was clearly a opening for like this game from that framework. So I think that like Breath of the Wild style is kind of secondary to just the concept of completing the Pokedex. That's the big thing, I think.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, and it's a shame that they people went in with that expectation, which I guess it's warranted. I understand why, but it's definitely not trying to be Breath of the Wild when you really pin it down. So, this is
Well,
the
do you
11th.
do
Oh,
you want it to be?
yeah,
Want it to be more Breath of the Wild esque?
yeah. Although now that I have it, I don't want it with Scarlet. But,
True. Yeah.
but I do. I do. Here's my other problem with this game, and actually with Scarlet as well, is what makes open world games great and games with just large maps is that the level design still has to be there. When you play The Witcher 3, yes, the world is huge, but you feel like every area that you walk in has a story. And the trees are large enough that they cover you, like they're taller than you are. The mountains feel tall and often unscalable. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Um, with this game, and also definitely with Scarlet, the maps almost seem like they were put in secondary. Um, they don't feel like real places to me. They
Mm.
didn't feel, and it's not necessarily their fault. They're dealing with the Switch. The Switch has limited capabilities. I mean, just looking at the releases they just did for the Nintendo Direct, pretty much all those games look like GameCube games, if not already are GameCube games.
I guess, but Breath of the Wild is also on Switch.
That's why it's a marvel. It's a absolutely fascinating game, and its level design was done by the people that did Xenoblade. So they had
Also on Wii U.
yeah, and it's amazing. Um,
Yeah.
these Pokemon games do not strive to be technical marvels, and I get it. I understand why, but at the same time, when you're trying to make like a big open world and make it feel like lived in, I don't feel it with these Pokemon games. I want the trees.
Yeah.
I want it to be scaled down so that the the mountains seem tall. And this game, and in Scarlet, again, I'm just gonna say all the attempts here, they just don't seem that big. Especially once you get fly on all these things, it's not even a thing. Like these mountains seem very small, and I don't. They just don't. They don't have that level design where they feel you feel like you're in a big world. The worlds end up just feeling very tiny, and I don't think they've really executed the dream open world for Pokemon yet. I think I think this game does it better than Scarlet did when Scarlet is actually an open world game and this one isn't, which is kind of ironic. Because at least there appeared to be landmarks. I remember distinctly the volcano felt really cool. Like there's an actual like volcano, and it was off the coast of this big like peninsula, and I like that. I think that was cool. At the very least, it had what felt like a map. In Scarlet Violet, it is not anywhere near that. I'm just warning you. It's like it it really feels like designing the world was secondary, and it's a shame because that's what an open world needs, or else it just feels very bland. And that's just my take on Pokemon's open world attempts.
Understandably so. I mean, I think of because even just trying to collect all the Pokemon, I would go flying around an area and then suddenly try and go over a mountain, and it's like you can't progress any further, and it turned into a giant purple cloud. And I know it says like not a technical marvel, but like it was like impossible to turn around because I couldn't even see where I was going. It was bizarre. It took me out of the reality of it.
Yeah. And to be fair to Arceus, it is not an open world game. So it had no impetus to do anything besides what it did, but it was still kind of a letdown when the stuff like that happens. It's just
But
like
yeah,
it's kind of a bummer.
I mix because like I okay to critique it, but I also don't want to undersell it because I think it's really good. I fear that like me being judgmental about it sounds like I'm being picky and like criticizing the whole point of the game. But I think you're right. It's like that's not okay. Yeah, it's a big open area where you should explore and complete your Pokédex. So it is kind of the point of the game, but I don't think it fails.
Mhm.
It actually passes pretty well. What it is until you get to those like wall areas.
Yeah, and again, I can't necessarily blame it because it's not trying to be an open world entirely game. So it's a weird. Certainly, my complaints are more levied at Scarlet for that. Um,
Yeah.
it's just disappointing on that. So this is the 11th best-selling Switch game.
Yeah, we can go down the list if you like.
Sure.
All right. So, oh, is it 11? No, 13. 13th best selling. You guess what the top one is?
I already opened the link.
No, you know.
It's Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
52 million.
Dude,
Archiving the wrong game.
dude, you want fucking COVID sales. Animal Crossing New Horizons could not have released at a better time. Holy shit. 41.59 million.
That's great. I am confused about Mario Kart Deluxe though.
It's a pack in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
basically. Nowadays I'm not, I guess, with the DLC. Good on them, but Smash at 30.4, number 3. Makes sense. The ultimate Smash game.
Yeah.
I don't know where they go from here.
Yeah.
Mega Smash game. 4 is Breath of the Wild at 29. Impressive for a Zelda game. That was their like big success. Pokemon Sword and Shield is number 5 at 25.68 million.
Is this the first Nintendo console where Pokemon isn't the biggest selling, besides the NES, but the biggest selling game?
Super Nintendo
Isn't
as
it? Well,
well.
super sure, but like, isn't it?
64.
I don't know how well the stadium sell. It's got to be up
Not
there.
better than Mario Party or Mario Kart or Smash.
Okay,
GameCube, I feel like as well. What GameCube Pokemon game would be a top seller?
that's a good point. Well, back then it was a handheld thing
Okay, if you're going handheld, sure.
because it's always been the top seller on all the handhelds, right?
But 3DS,
Probably Pokemon X
maybe.
and Y,
Okay,
and
well,
then
no, maybe.
I don't have the data, but it's got to be up there.
On the DS and GBA and Game Boy Color for sure. Although Tetris throws a loose, but that's Game Boy, I think.
Yeah. So it's weird to see
Uh,
it being number 5. I was expecting it to be higher.
But you're mixing it with the home console thing. That makes sense to me.
That's true. Yeah, now it's competing with the big guns. So, although it's number 6 is Super Mario. It beats Super Mario. Uh-oh,
And
Nintendo.
Mario Odyssey. That doesn't surprise me though. Odyssey's kind of fallen off a little bit. That's not bad though. That's a good position. Scarlet and Violet since 2 months ago. Not even. A month and a half is number 7 at 20.6 million.
Jeez.
Wow, that's gonna top this. So we might be wrong about Pokemon not being the top seller in a year's time.
Maybe it just needs some time. Yeah.
Yeah. Super Mario Party at number 8. Good for them. We played it. Rough time, but yeah, for Spencer, still fun. 18.79 million. Ring Fit Adventure at number 9. 15.2 million.
I don't see that.
Okay.
That's weird.
Because you need the accessory, so that is kind of weird. That was a COVID seller too, I feel like.
Okay. Yeah, it would have been a couple months old by then. Does that make sense?
I got the date wrong, by the way. So Scarlet and Violet is like 3 months old. Still. That's crazy. Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee is 15.07 million. 2018. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is number 11 at 14.9 million since November of 2021. It's over a year. New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe is number 12 at 14.75 million since 2019, and Pokemon Legends Arceus at number 13 with 14.63 million since January of 2022.
I guarantee you that's changed by now. I bet you Pokemon Legends is number 12.
Yeah.
This was
Yeah,
as
it's
of
going
December
down.
31st.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about that.
A lot of Pokemon in there.
Yeah. And this one's a spin-off and all. But I mean, is it though? Like, kind of feels like impactful in the main story.
Yeah, but they do call it Pokemon Legends. I wonder if that implies they're going to do more in this series.
Hmm. That's true.
I hope so.
Still, I mean, well, I guess Let's Go Pikachu. It is a mainline game, but you don't really think of it that way. It's the first game.
Yeah. I think I would consider that one a spin-off.
Same. It was an accessory game,
Yeah.
realistically. So you have one, two. How many Pokemon games here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the top 13. And Arceus is the bottom of those 5. But I do see it outpacing Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee soon. Not far off. It's like 500,000.
Yeah.
This is more recent.
Way more recent. So yeah, I agree. I think it'll outpace that for sure.
It does scare me that Brilliant Diamond and Pearl is so recent, more recent, and no, it's not. It's actually it came out before. It's still higher selling. They're about equal, but Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is so lackluster by comparison.
Yeah. I think it's just people are more confident with it. But it's only what point 0.3 million ahead.
Yeah, and about the same time earlier.
I think
That
it'll pass that. Yeah.
it's just a question mark. Like I don't. Brilliant Diamond thing is just like a novelty, like, but this is like its own unique, cool experience. It's good that this is neck and neck with it, but it should be theoretically outclassing it.
Yeah.
Scarlet and Violet at that end too.
Well, no, I would
Disgusting.
get why Scarlet and Violet's ahead. It's the newest.
Sword and Shield,
Whether it's good or
also
not
disgusting.
is see some like it's like it's a brand, right? It's like whether it's good or not is irrelevant almost.
Sad.
You can't do it like forever, but it certainly for a while you can get away with crap.
I don't question a lot of the top 10. Like Mario Kart 8, yeah, that's great. Animal Crossing, that's great. Smash, that's great. Breath of the Wild, that's great. Mario Odyssey, great. Just Pokemon Sword and Shield, what? Scarlet and Violet,
Pokemon games, right?
no, not these ones. They're abominations. They're abhorrent.
Oh my god. They I look at them as they're not for me. That's how I look. What I liked from Pokemon is no longer applied.
That's a good way of looking at it. You know, if people want to enjoy it, let them enjoy it. I think that they are
I,
disappointing to a Pokemon fan, especially.
to that end, though, I sometimes wonder what they see in it. Because I have lost my joy of Pokemon a long time ago, but as I play like these newer ones, just out of curiosity to understand, I just don't even see it. I'm like what do other people still see in this series that I just don't get? Or if they're new, if they're kids, and this is like their first one, like what is it that they see? What is it that they get that I can't grasp? So there's a curiosity to it, but I'm sure I just don't want to talk to children. So
I don't think that Nintendo's console sales have ever been as strong either. So like probably just access. This is it's probably the Switch has probably become like the worldwide phenomenon in a sense. So and it makes sense. It's the family unit.
I will say this: I think he was 4 or 5 year old nephew came over from. He lives in Seattle, but they came down for Christmas, and I was like, "You want to play Switch?" And he said, "Yeah." We played 2 games. We played Pokemon Scarlet because he heard that that was a game, and he seemed to like it, but was very confused. And then we put on Kirby, and he lost his fucking mind. He loved it. So at that age, I think still it's got to go to like the platformers. So take that what you will.
And it's not quality. It's not quality over quantity or something. You know, like Pokemon is still the name brand. I guess Kirby is, but he's cute, but I don't think he's ever made waves in a commercially successful way.
Nope. Yeah, I agree. Everyone. That's the
Yeah.
funny part too. Is everyone knows who he is too. Like he's a mascot worthy character that just hasn't really sold games very well. Weird. The
Yeah.
games are good. I've never played a Kirby game I didn't like. So that's an interesting one with Kirby. That's a conundrum. Yeah. Hopefully they make a Kirby RPG. We can talk about it.
I want to talk about Arceus because catching Arceus is especially significant in this game.
Hmm.
I don't have to overdo it here. I think I should mention that this is the first game where you can kind of legitimately catch it without an event. And the reason this is significant is because originally in Diamond and Pearl, you were supposed to get Arceus through an event. I know you can get it in like Black and White, in like Mystery Dungeon or something, Pokemon Arceus. It was already a Pokemon of mythology. It's like the creator Pokemon. But the Americas had decided that the event wasn't worth doing, so they canceled it. So nobody in the US could legitimately get the event to get Arceus. So
Mm.
this is from an article by CBR. I think it's card based something .com. Originally, Game Freak planned to distribute an event exclusive item called the Azure Flute. It's the item that you use in this game. It's the one that goes, and you use it to summon your Pokemon.
Oh,
You know, the ones
okay.
that you ride on in this game.
Oh, that's an
So
interesting tie-in.
this is a throwback to that event. This key item to the spear pillar when Dialga or Palkia, or both, plus Giratina in Platinum's case, was encountered in the main story, would give the player the option to play the flute, creating a staircase that granted access to the Hall of Origin. In this game, once you have caught all of the Pokemon and played the Azure Flute, it reveals that staircase and you can go to Arceus. There they could encounter and catch a level 80 Arceus. In this game, it's 75. While the event seems fittingly epic for a Pokemon that's said to be a creator deity, the Azure Flute was never released anywhere in the world. In a 2013 interview, longtime Game Freak director Junichi Masuda explained that while the developers thought it was a fun idea at the time, he later changed his mind, thinking it would be too confusing for players. I think I've heard that it happened in Japan first, though. So there is that.
Hmm.
What do you think about the player's ability to encounter and catch Arceus in Legends Arceus? Based on this.
Taking this key item to the spear pillar was encountered and made sure to get to play the option to play the flute. I mean, that doesn't seem that complicated.
Oh, it was a Toys R Us event.
Right,
It was
right,
a
right.
plan, right?
But they didn't do it because he said it would be too confusing for players.
Because you would have to be at a point in the game where you had already beaten the Elite Four, captured Dialga and Palkia, and then used the event key. So the number of players who played the game up to that point is probably lower. That's probably why they canceled it in the first place. They thought it would be a commercial failure of an event that nobody would care.
Mm, I guess I don't know. That's odd to me. Like they could have made it also easier to use, like simpler to use. I think people would have gone nuts for it. I don't think there's a Pokemon thing you could do. I mean, what the cost of that versus to make that versus how much you'd get from whatever this was going to be. Like I don't know how these event like Toys R Us thing. I don't know what you do. Like, do you pay money to go to it or pay $5 to get in? I don't know.
No, I think I've done it at like GameStop or something. You go in and you bring your DS and you can get the event to go see Mew or something. That was like 10 years ago or so, maybe longer, 15. It's not
But yeah,
complicated.
I'm sure they want you to go in because you could theoretically buy something while you're there. That's the goal, is that you buy. They get more foot traffic. So I mean, how much could it possibly cost to even code that? Assuming, remembering that they've already coded the entire game. Like,
The question of me for me to like, is Japan a dominant market? Obviously it is. They're probably going to buy the games more, especially at that time. Um, but it's like, are these games made for Japanese players or American? Is Pokemon a global export or is it a native
oh,
export
it's
or an import?
global.
It
It's
is, and it
yeah.
should be. And so it's a mistake not to think that. But I think there's the question mark by Gen 4. I'm reading that book right now, The Rise and Fall of Pokemon. It was around this time they were starting to consider that it fell off. I think that they're thinking Gen 4 is niche,
I mean,
despite however much it might have sold.
I tend to agree with that because it's literally at the beginning of this podcast I said I fell off. But at the same time, falling off from literally like the highest cliff that's ever been in video games tells me you should probably have still done it. I mean, they could have made a ton of money off this, even if it wasn't as much as it could have been like a year or two ago. That's To me, that seems like a no brainer. I'm very confused why they pulled the plug on this. I bet you there might have been other things involved, like issues with Toys R Us or whoever they were planning on doing this with in Japan or something. I don't know, but that's a shame that they never did it, and it's very weird. It almost reminds me of Near. This is another very strange, tenuous connection I'm going to make. um, Near, and I'm speaking of the first one, or the version I played was Replicant. the The story of Near takes place after the optional ending of Drakengard 1. There's like an optional ending in Drakengard, and Nier takes place after, like, a bunch of years after that. So this is even more obscure than the fact that Arceus is the is basically based off of a failed DLC concept from the Nintendo DS. Is so like randomly obscure. That's kind of like the funniest way that they could have pitched this game. It's like what should we make this Pokemon game based off of? We never released that DLC that people were supposed to go to Toys R Us for Gen 4. Why don't we make a game based off that? And they said yes, capitulate it. Like, go for
Capitulate. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it.
I used that word earlier because I was talking to my girlfriend about, oh yeah, I got Arceus, and she's like, "Did you catch it?" I'm like, "I didn't even have to. He capitulated himself to me.
Oh,
Once you beat him, he just literally gives. You don't even have to throw a Pokeball. He just joins your party. Capitulation."
that's
Anyways,
awesome.
um, I see it as like a redemption for the West or for the globe. Like, because
Okay.
Arceus is actually, if you look in like competitive game, it has all maxed out stats. There's an item called the plate, like a specific plate in the normal games, and if you, depending on the type of plate that you give Arceus, it changes its type. So Arceus can be any type that you want it to.
Oh wow.
This is why it's like the creator Pokemon. It's like the entity Pokemon. And it's really cool in that sense. In this game, it's so earned because you have to fight through freaking fire and brimstone to complete the Pokédex. You know,
Mm-hmm.
was really happy and proud of like I've never completed a Pokédex, and and it's a joke. It's a joke in Gen 1 and Gen 2 or whatever. You complete the Pokédex, and Oak basically just gives you a message. Good job, Bill. Or whatever. You ever did it? You ever
I
complete the
did. I
Pokédex?
completed it in Gen 1. I was absolutely pumped. And then I played something else. Because yeah, there's nothing.
Yeah.
You got a certificate.
Yeah. That's it, right?
Yeah.
This one I think is like I have more purpose to it. Like it's really cool. Like you get to meet the creator Pokemon. Like I don't I enjoyed that. And then I will say as a footnote, once you catch Arceus in Legends Arceus, you can then catch it in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. There's some weird crossover with some of the legendaries. You have to have a save file for Brilliant Diamond if you want to catch like Manaphy or Darkrai. Um, the one for Manaphy is ridiculous. It's like you have to bring like the three most random water Pokemon to like a cave, and then it'll appear. Fortunately, you don't need Manaphy or Darkrai to complete the Pokedex to catch Arceus in this game.
Nice. Yeah, that's more of that bizarre stuff that I would never have figured out.
Yeah, but it's a worthy endeavor. You heard it here first, folks. Catch
so
Arceus. It's a real catch.
so our last topic is, how do you think Arceus is going to influence the series going forward?
That's a question. I mean, I like the idea of like, will there be sequels? What legend will they focus on next? Which one is greater than the god Pokemon himself?
I want to play
Mewtwo?
Pokemon Legends Gen 1. That's all I have to
Mewtwo.
call it for.
Mew. The Legend of Mew.
Sure. As long as it's Gen
Pokemon
1.
Legends Ash.
Yeah, Ash Ketchum.
Make an allusion to Ash, I'm pretty sure, in this game. But the problem is that this is not the best selling Pokemon game. It's Scarlet and Violet, but it's pretty high up there.
Yeah.
Oh, Sword and Shield's higher, but I mean, I think those set a precedent for laziness in the mainline games. There is a question about what do they want to do outside of those mainline games because there is a lot of potential. We are still on the tracking to get a Pokemon game every year. If you look at like all the Pokemon games released.
That's true. That's a good point.
So, I don't know.
Well, having played Scarlet, I can say that one positive change they made on that was you can summon a Pokemon outside of battle to do various things, including fight, which sounds like I just made a very confusing statement. But you can release a Pokemon out and it will fight the first Pokemon it sees, and it's completely absent of you doing anything. You don't have to like get engaged in a turn-based battle. It'll just do it for you. You get like a third of the experience or something like that, but it's arguably faster. I don't know. You just walk into a big patch of Pokemon and let it roll. Obviously, you want to make sure your Pokemon is the stronger, but things like that, like convenient of life things, they can also like harvest, like they could in Arceus. They can harvest, minerals or whatever outside. Which things like that are really cool with Arceus because it, like we mentioned before, it makes you feel like you're in this world with your Pokemon instead of just having it as like a a cockfighter or something. It makes you feel like you're experiencing the world together. So stuff like that is really cool. I think it's going to have an influence with crafting. I'm actually surprised they didn't put crafting in even in like a small degree, with how popular like Minecraft is and stuff with kids. It seems like crafting would be like a no-brainer. So I was happy to see it in Arceus. Surprised it wasn't in Scarlet and Violet, although with how generally empty that game felt, I guess I'm not that surprised. But I hope they continue, especially if they just do a Legends series, down the open world path. but I want them to be more mindful of the worlds they create and make them a little bit more designed than they have been. So I can feel like it's more of an adventure. But I think Arceus is a good start to what could be a really probably better than the mainline series of
It's
games.
true. I argue this is the best Pokemon game I've played. I go back and forth. But, I think it innovates for the right reasons. Yeah, there's some downfalls. Playing this side by side with Gen 4, I'm just like, how many times can I do this?
Yeah. Oh, I got that. I had that thought definitely with Pearl.
So I appreciate it just for like reinventing the formula and in a functional and fun way. I latched onto it pretty hard. I don't think I've actually invested this much time into the core story of a Pokemon game. So I dug it.
Well, any last words about Pokemon Arceus? Pokemon Legends Arceus, I should say.
I think you're gonna see what like you want to see. If like it intrigues you, I think you should try it. If it doesn't, don't skip it. But no, it's 13th best selling for a reason. It's not a dud. A couple of them are on that list, and I'm like, why? But not with this one. With this one, I'm like, yeah, go Arceus.
Yeah. It shows a ton of promise. I think it's I viewed it at the end more like a blueprint of what this series could do as opposed to what they're currently doing. Um, and I honestly hope it stays its own thing and it's allowed to be more of like a hardcore Pokemon gamer game in the future. So I hope it stays its own thing and we get a more evolved form of this going forward. That would be ideal for me. Oh,
Just don't make those evolutions so freaking complicated.
I will not evolve those. Uh, but that's Pokemon Legends Arceus. We've completed the archive, man.
Longer than expected, but good.
Yeah. Uh, uh, that's it. I don't remember how I end these. I guess I just say we get to consider Pokemon Legends Arceus. That's a hard one to say. That's a tongue twister.
Arceus.
Archive.
Archive.
Thanks, Teddy.
Time spent.
Sure, check out Majority for all the hot content. I'm sure there'll be a Q&A soon.
Turbo throw down.
All right.
Bring it to Sega House. Subscribe to RPG Archive, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Motherfuckers. Bye, guys.